right, we are here with our brother Harold Channer, and so glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate just who you are,
Thanks,
and just your family, how you've built your family, and how much you've served the church. It's really been incredible ever since I got here, 3.5 years ago. So for those of you who don't know, this is Harold Channer, and he is a longtime, member of North River Church and also an elder here. Recently appointed, which is cool. And yeah, we wanted to just take this opportunity to kind of get to know you a little bit, and also just kind of talk about some just spiritual topics for people to be able to, learn from you a little bit and be encouraged. So yeah, if you could just start off and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, who's in your family, how long you've been part of North River, that sort of thing.
Okay. My family, well, actually where I'm from, I was born in Paddington, England. My family was both my parents, moved over there, to do school. My dad actually attended college in England, and my mom, her dad actually was, a part of MGM Studios doing lighting for the movies. So they met in a kind of a small community over there in London. And, years later, my sister and I were born. And so at that point, we moved, I would say maybe a couple years in, we were in Paddington, and then we moved to Jamaica, West Indies. Gotcha. So that was my kind of where I was born, family. I'm married to Jerry Channer. You guys don't know. We've been married 24 years. Next year will be 25, so that quarter of a century going there. We have two sons. AJ is our older son. He's 18, attending Georgia State University, pre-med student. Our younger son, Aaron Channer, he's an 11th grader at a local high school. And it's been very encouraging to see them both grow and develop.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's been really cool. And he's after the technology end of things like his dad. So I'm
very cool.
Just connecting with him
it's
through that
field
stuff.
These days.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Healthcare and technology. It's not too bad. So it'll be good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. And how long have you been part of North River here?
Been 10 plus years. It's just watching the transition. So it's been really cool seeing the growth at North River, and just being a part of that whole development process. And I was actually deacon of family groups years back, and just really being connected with the family group leaders and being able to see that development and where it is today. Now with communities, and just watching that growth, and also seeing just a large growth of folks coming into the fellowship. So it's been great.
No doubt.
Yeah,
that's
since
awesome.
the time I've been here. Yeah,
very cool. And can you tell us a little bit just about how you became a Christian, how you came to follow Jesus, and a little bit about that story?
Yeah. So after high school, so I grew up in. So moved around a lot, as you could probably tell from my starting the conversation.
Right.
From England to Jamaica, West Indies for 8 years, and then we moved to South Florida. So I lived in South Florida for about 10 years. Went to high school in South Florida, and after high school decided to move to New York. My parents actually divorced when I was about 5 years old, and my mom kind of tried to build a plan for us, my sister and I, and my dad moved to New York City. So after high school, I wanted to kind of get to know him, so moved to New York City to get to know him, and God had other plans. So through that, our deeper plans, it was great to connect with him, and I'll kind of touch on that in a little bit. But it was just before my freshman year in college. I was a high school friend that reached out to me. Didn't know how she was able to get my number, but she reached out to me, and she said, I'm going to this church. I moved up here and I'm going to this great church. I would love for you to come out. And it was a midweek, and came out to the midweek and just saw the genuineness of the fellowship. And I grew up kind of somewhat of a religious background, but not necessarily from kind of poke my foot in the water a little bit in the sense of just religion, but I sensed the genuineness. and I wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting. Now living with my dad at the time for some time, and getting connected there, and then becoming a part of the church, started studying the Bible, became a disciple just before my freshman year started. So I was studying the Bible and that's why family groups is such a big deal to me. It was a mixture of, single brothers, some married brothers, and a couple campus brothers were in my studies. And that really diverse group of brothers was just very impactful to me, just hearing their perspective. Yeah. Just moving to New York City was a little bit, interesting, getting around town to connect with them, but it was good for my heart. I know just before I became a disciple, I prayed. I was like, I moved up here for a reason, God. That was my, there had to be a reason why I'm here. And God made it crystal clear the reason why I was there. And so it definitely allowed me to build a great relationship with my dad before he passed about 8 years ago. Wow. And, just being able to connect and build with strong relationships with the various brothers and sisters and build character. And it was just great for me to be up there.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. And when you kind of think about when you were introduced to the message of the gospel, you know what I mean? For the first time, was there one particular thing that stands out in your mind, or a few things that just really put you over the edge and say I'm all in for Jesus,
Yeah. So, it was definitely the Matthew 13s, right? Looking at the merchant and just having that running after that pearl, and just that heart of running after something. Because I've kind of always been a type of individual that always need to have a purpose. In high school, I was part of our ROTC program, got probably one of the highest ranks in ROTC. Oh, wow. And so I always had a purposeful, had to have, I couldn't just kind of aimlessly run around, right? And so when I saw that the focus of Jesus and just the heart of Jesus and that purposeful living that Jesus expects from his people and just being connected, I just bought into it, just that heart of running after that pearl, seeking and getting deeper into God's word and being connected with Jesus, and just the way that he just loved people and the way that he connected. So
no doubt. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, in terms of your role as elder at North River, I know you're just kind of coming into it, but what has that been like? Just kind of thinking about, this challenge that you have before God, right? To be like a shepherd, for the flock. Yeah. So what's that been like so far?
It's been, as you said, it's, really embracing the challenge. I've been reading a series of books just to really get a better understanding and the depth of what that means. The relationship, the responsibility, what God expects of me. As I mentioned before, being a deacon of family groups, just really being around the fellowship, being that shepherd heart that God expected from me, kind of transitioned into now more of I would say a wider scope, right, of responsibility. It's been fun. I'm also part of the board as well here at North River. And, I support more of the physical operational stuff. So my background, I'm a communications engineer for what I do for work. And, it was more of the physical security is where I was helping here at North River to help with the physical security policies. Okay. And so, kind of working through that. I think with COVID, things from a physical security standpoint is here nor there. Right. But it's finding other ways to serve on the board from a operational standpoint is still finding my immediate niche. From an elder standpoint, it's definitely been a lot of fun. We're working through some policies right now, and that's been fun, trying to develop the policies with some other brothers and sisters, and really praying and digging deep and really understanding what God's plan what he has for North River, and how we can really develop that for the next generation. So it's been really encouraging and really inspiring, and I'm excited. I'm super excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's so important to have people like you, who are God focused and have years of experience to help guide the process as we look towards the future. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because as we know from this year, you never know what the future holds.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah.
And
spot on. Yeah.
It definitely, it's reassuring to me to know that like we have people like you and the other elders and a lot of people.
Yes.
Really, prayerfully figuring out like what is, like you said, what's God's plan, for North River. And so that's awesome.
And one of the things I dare say is most exciting and equally exciting, really understanding the history of North River, but also, developing the next generation. And I'm all about that. I know for work, that's what I do. There are junior engineers that come in through different feeder programs at local universities. I pull them all in, connect with them and be able to help develop them to really find their passion within the industry. And so that's been fun, and knowing that that's what we're doing, we're developing now to do that here. Collaborating with the 30 plus, 40 plus to really get their understand their vision, what they see North River, what the next generation of North River looks like. It's really exciting.
For sure. I mean, it's like if we don't raise up the next generation, if we don't pass on our faith, our convictions, then it ends with us.
Exactly.
And I know God has amazing things in store. So and that's so encouraging. Yeah. And what is I wanted to ask, what's something that you feel like God's Spirit, like through His Word, through your times with God in prayer, through your own experience, like what's something God's been putting on your heart lately? Something that you've been learning, or something that's just been kind of burning, within you.
Yeah. I dare say it's the intimacy with God. It's the having a more of a being more connected with God in a more precious, more sacred kind of a way, and just really diving deeper into that. Looking at scriptures like Psalms 111, just really talking about the importance of wisdom, right? Proverbs 4 that talks about get wisdom, and just really digging deeper in that sense of, and how am I going to get that wisdom is by digging deeper into God's word and really having great relationships, mentor relationships. And so, now I feel like with this, COVID and all these things that we're going through, it's up close and personal. We're even having this time where we're, it's kind of a one-on-one, where we're talking through Zoom or various other collaboration tools. It's one-on-one. And so I think that, also, less being out in public around the crowds. And it's inspiring me to draw deeper, that when I do share, when I do speak, even within the household, we're connecting as a family. It's important to dig deeper so that when we're around each other, the conversations are rich with the Spirit, rich with just mercy and grace because of digging deeper, in our own personal walk. So I know for me, that's very, very important. It's been near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's great. And in terms of digging deeper, like, is there kind of like something you could give, people listening, just kind of a tip or something as to like, okay, practically speaking, this helps me get deeper. Yeah.
I've been blessed to be around some great men and women, or I would say family members, especially I would say older aunts and different family members when growing up. And I remember at times when my parents were, going through different things, they would allow us to spend time with family in the country of Jamaica, West Indies. And I remember my grand aunt, I talk about her a lot. Amazing woman when it comes to prayer, deep prayer. She would take my sister and I on prayer walks. I remember there were times that we would walk with her. She's holding our hand and she has like a basin on the top of her head and carrying water and just singing and praying to God. And at the time, I'm confused as a little kid just watching all of this and, you know, understanding exactly what's going on with my parents as well. But, you know, just prayer has been such a powerful tool for me. Even before getting to my Bible, making sure that I'm praying deeply to really back to that point of intimacy, connecting with God through prayer. And so I'm grateful, like I said, to have those type of relationships very early of examples of, you know, people that prayed really deeply and were genuine through their prayer and hopeful and faithful through prayer. And, you know, another person I think about is my mom, you know, amazing woman. You know, after I became a Christian, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years later, she became a Christian. And, you know, I was in New York City. She's in South Florida.
Wow.
My, you know, new wife and I, we went down, baptized her, and
That's so cool.
head on back to work Monday morning.
Wow.
But and I think, you know, after her baptism, you know, her prayer was just so much more enhanced. So I know for me, it was really learning from those particular women in my life.
Yeah, I think that's so important, you know, what you said, because I think sometimes we come to this area of our life and we're kind of like, what do I do? Like, I feel stuck. I don't know how to connect with God. He's invisible. I'm distracted. There's all these kinds of things. And we forget oftentimes the people that God has put in our lives that we can follow their example. You know, I mean, people who've connected. I mean, that's been God's plan from the beginning. That kind of mentor-mentee relationship, a teacher, a parent. You know, so many different, you know, family members and just people who have been around us and kind of shown us the way to draw on those experiences. You know, I think is so awesome. And then the last question I wanted to ask you, just based on kind of like, you know, where we're at in today's world. There's been a lot of racial strife, tragedy, a lot of economic, you know, inequity. There's a lot of political division. I mean, just to name a few, right? There's so many things going on. You know, how have you responded, even just in your own mind and heart, in your actions? What do you think, you know, is the best way for a follower of Jesus, you know, to respond based on this reality we're living in?
Yeah, it's loaded
it's
question.
A lot there.
Loaded question. But, you know, I dare say it's a meaningful question, and it is a question that has to be asked. And I think we need to ask it a lot more. Let me step back a little bit. I've always been one with my sons that, you know, when there are civil unrest, various things going on in the media, I tend to either record it and age appropriately, you know, have a conversation with them, you know, get their perspective. You know, because there's been a time, you know, when the boys were younger, and like I said, they're teenagers now, but, you know, there's a distinction between, you know, especially a man of color when it comes from, you know, at one point you are cute, you know, as a little kid, you know, walking around, jumping around, it's all great. But when does that change come from being cute to now you are somewhat of a, you know, public enemy number one in today's society? And so, you know, just not to say growing up having that victim mentality, but making sure that through my devos with them, really digging back to Jesus. You know, Jesus was marginalized. Jesus was treated different within his own town. You know, he was kicked out. And so there was just different things that how Jesus was treated. And so my conversations with them was always brought back to Jesus. Now, you know, with all the riots, all the things that, you know, within the household standpoint, you know, I made a point to say, let's back to prayer, right? Back to connecting, back to making sure that we are in touch. I know for me, I've reached out to different brothers and sisters of all races, right? To get their connection. I think to your initial question, it's vitally important for us Christians to get this on straight. You know, I think for years, sometimes as Christians, we've got to be careful back to mentor relationships, because to me, those are relationships that are very intimate, right? People get to know you. They get to know you, you know, financially. They get to know all these things because you're getting direction from them. Yep. And I remember a great brother shared at service one months back that, you know, those intimate relationships, if they all simply look like someone like you, how are you really building true connection with the full body? And, you know, I've seen that across the board. And I know for me, it's been very intentional that my wife and I, you know, we've been through 3 ministries from New York to, we lived in Tampa for some years, and then we moved to here to Georgia. You know, we've always been looking for relationships that is very diverse in nature. Yeah. And I think the nonverbals speak as well, even to my children, right? You know, as we're growing them in the kingdom, helping them to see the kingdom, it's seeing those relationships that don't necessarily look like mom and dad that we're connecting with, that they see those relationships that, wow, I can get direction from someone that doesn't necessarily look like me. And so my encouragement to the brothers, you know, and sisters within our movement is, let's, you know, we can really tell how we are moving in this kind of social climate by our relationships. That's right. And if we are, you know, not having those type of relationships that are built on kind of the, you know, the full view of what God sees, I call it the garden, right? The different colors. Then we have to really check ourselves and say, are we only willing to learn from someone that looks like me? Yeah. And, you know, and then it goes right into, my heart is sad that we are looking to the world for direction. The world is reacting and we're responding, but I think we need to lead the way. Yeah. You know, as Christians, we should be leading the way. We should be the ones, not necessarily, you know, this compare and contrast to what the world is doing, but within our families. Absolutely, you know, making sure that we're connecting with families that don't necessarily look like us. It's not, we're moving away from the being more, I would say, toleration. And more into the acceptance. And I think that's a missing depth in our movement as Christians. So I think Christians have a responsibility to be more accepting of other Christians and really understand their pain. And I'm so grateful for, you know, the diversity training and so forth that we're doing in church, bringing more awareness to this. But it's not a one size fits all. It's not a silver bullet to figure this thing out. It's working together in kind of a, you know, organic fashion through the Spirit.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, just bringing it back to the relationships, bringing it back to the love. You know, right? I mean, like you said, bringing it back to Jesus. Right? If we're gonna, you know, claim to be followers with Him, we got to follow His example and how He reached out across all kinds of, you know, barriers and division and strife and pain. I mean, there was so much, but man, He had a way, you know, with His love. And so I really appreciate that. And I also just want to say again how much I appreciate you and just your example and how you are helping to lead, you know, people in this church through your example, through your love, through your guidance, you know, with God at the center. You know, all of it. So thanks so much, Harold, for joining us, and keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate it. And I feel like North River's in really good hands. So
appreciate it. I'm honored.